Hi, I'm Jo Clark, and thanks so much for joining me today. This is the Redefining Midlife podcast, a podcast designed for the 40-plus woman who is determined to challenge society's myths and beliefs around midlife. It's for the woman who is inspired and ready to define midlife her way. Join me each week as I chat to health and wellness experts for up-to-date information on how to live well as some special conversations with incredible everyday women redefining what midlife can look like. Here's to making our next half of life even better than the first. The power of having a morning ritual or routine is something that has been shown time and time again to have so many positive benefits. For me personally, my morning routine is something that I've had for a number of years, and I've just slowly added elements as my life has allowed. And it really sets my day up so well, and I just feel way better for having one. A morning ritual is also something that I encourage the women of my Better Than Before membership to develop as part of their own wellness recipe. Today, I'd love to share the power of this practice with you, with my very special guest, Jada de Goey Teatino-Climacos. Now, Jada is the founder of the Rise and Shine Collective. In years past, Jada was a Latin dance instructor at a Latin dance studio she and her husband owned. She was also the CEO of the business for many years, as well as being mum to 3 busy boys. Jada could see that her continual late nights and busy schedule had left her with an empty cup. Something had to change, and that's when Jada discovered the power of early rising and morning routines. And even though she'd been a night owl all her life, as Jada explains, this new practice changed her health, her relationships, and actually her career. Jada's passion now lies in supporting women to live their fullest lives through the Rise and Shine Collective. She offers guidance, support, and training to women who are wanting to become early risers so that they too can use their mornings in the most powerful way to support themselves, their life, and their big goals. Welcome to the Redefining Midlife podcast, Jada. It's lovely to have you on here for today, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation all about establishing a morning routine, being an early riser, and what that might look like for people, because it can be all sorts of different things for different people.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jo. I'm actually very excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
Excellent. So you've created a business which is centered around helping women to create a morning ritual or routine. And it's something that you are hoping to encourage people to become early risers so they can start their own. So can you tell us a little bit about what the catalyst was for you to start a business that is centering on this?
Yes, I can. It takes us back to that memorable year for all of us, that one that's 2020, where the world went crazy. Actually, the idea of this business did come to me in around June, July of 2020, mid-pandemic, when I was trying to keep a business alive and homeschool children and all the different things that were going on. And in fact, at that point, I had been becoming, I'll use that word, becoming an early riser, or trying to become an early riser for around 2 years. At some point, it just became this desire or this thought or this need to shift into becoming an early riser, which was the complete opposite of how I had lived my life right from as a teenager through my whole adult life. I was a Latin dance teacher. I'd always had late nights. I would often be finishing classes and eating dinner at 10:30, 11 at night, going to bed at 1 a.m. once I wound down. So I had been a night owl all my life. And once I had kids, I continued in running our business to often go back to work after they went to sleep to get more work done. And even when I had nothing to do, I would just do things and stay up late, even though I was tired. So shifting to becoming an early riser was really challenging for me. It required a lot of changes, trying it, falling off the wagon, researching, reading books, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube tutorials, studying optimal early morning routines, and lots of study around mindset and personal development. coaching programs and how to elevate yourself and live your best life, and all of that kind of thing fascinates me. I've always got some kind of personal development or parenting book on my bedside table or business book. Part of what was driving that desire was that I was, a busy business owner with, by that time, 3 children. And I just felt like there were all these I guess what you'd call success habits, or, rituals or things that I wanted to fit into my life. I mean, I used to be a dancer. I wasn't dancing as much anymore, so I wasn't exercising as much. I wanted to have time to read again. I used to love reading. I love learning. I'd heard about how good meditation was and all of these kinds of habits. So I'd be really, ad hoc. And obviously you don't get the bigger benefits of that you do when you're doing it consistently. So all of those things were kind of compounding. And obviously just my days were just these long days that kind of controlled me rather than me being in control of my days, which just kind of built up and built up and built up. But over those couple of years in trying to become an early riser and not succeeding in keeping it regular, it really started to affect how I saw myself, like how I felt in myself. And I started to really beat myself up, and it started to affect how I was showing up in my business, and how I was showing up in life. I'm sure as a mother, I'm sure as a wife, as a friend, all of those things. And now I've studied more around psychology and self-love and all that kind of thing. But what was happening is that I was eroding my self-belief, which was ultimately eroding my self-love, by not sticking to this thing that had grown to become this huge important thing inside me. And so I guess then my studies and my interest in it grew and grew to look at, well, why is that happening? Why do I feel like that? How do I move through it? What are the things I need to put in place to form a habit? Oh, in fact, early rising requires breaking and forming multiple habits. No wonder it's so difficult, all of this study. So fast forward through all of that, in the peak of highly stressful times. So I had been also wanting to move out of the business that I was in with my husband. So this was kind of coming to a peak also. And so the pandemic was really just putting that extra pressure on, because it was even harder, and even more pressure in running the business. And so it just kind of highlighted even more that I didn't want to be leading that business anymore. And so I had already for a number of years been really going, well, what else would I do? Like, what kind of business would I start? What is my thing in life?
Waking up early of the morning to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Why? Maybe that was the thing. Why would I wake up early if I don't know, if I don't even want to be doing what I'm doing in the day? Exactly. Yes. And so this was all going on as well. So the meditation was actually around sending up the question to the universe. What could I be doing instead, was the general gist of it. Anyway, a few days later, the idea of the Rise and Shine Collective came to me around delivering programs to other women who probably feel like me, who have really struggled to make the switch to become an early riser, and provide the live accountability and support and guidance that I couldn't find anywhere. So the aspects, even though I'd been able to learn the strategies and the theory and the information, what I couldn't find was somewhere to show up to and people to show up with, and I guess a community and that kind of live guidance, that I knew would have made all the difference for me. Because when I organized a walk with a friend early in the morning, I would get up and I would go. If I organized an early yoga, I would get up and I would go. If I had a plane to catch, I would get up and I would go. But when I would put the alarm on for me, I would turn it off and go back to sleep. Yes.
So what have you found? You started this for yourself, and then you saw the opportunity to share what you've learned, what you've done with other people. What are some of the benefits that you've noticed for yourself?
Yeah. What I love about it is that it has such a domino effect on so many other areas in your life. So you can kind of focus on this one core habit, of early rising, especially if you do particular things in the morning, and it has a flow on effect to so many areas of your life. Which it can come down to what you do, but even the fact of early rising and that the power of that morning has a flow on effect around just how you feel, both mentally, emotionally. There's more of a sense of calm. Obviously that can still get tipped over by the things that happen during the day, because in the mornings I practice a specific routine, and it includes things like gratitude, journaling, exercise, having the time to learn. So it's had effects on, how I feel physically, my energy levels. Not always at first, like it's an adjustment period, but when you do it ongoing, you'll feel a sense of more energy. And also just the fact, I think for me as a mum, I've got 3 boys who are very energetic, and they're all still at home, kind of all school age, quite spread out age range. But there's more time in the morning. And also I've already filled my own cup before they need me. So I'm going into the morning with more capacity to love on them and be focused on them and get them ready for their day with love. So for me, in this season of life, that's definitely one of the big
Well, it's
big
huge,
things
isn't
I
it?
love.
All the things that is recommended to include in a morning routine or a morning ritual are the ones that give you that whole great balance of the happy hormones. Your body is in with chemically with so much better hormones than the cortisol, hit the ground running type of hormones, the stress hormones. And I love this that I just jotted down as you were speaking, that it sort of is one that I share with the women who are in my membership, was how, from Louise Hay, is how you start your morning is how you live your day, how you live your day is how you live your life. And it's one of those things where it just makes such a huge difference to start it on a equilibrium where you've been able to fill your cup, you can give to others. You've created that wonderful sense of hormonal balance within your body, and particularly in this stage of life for many women, there's so many things that are going on that can cause everything to be askew. It's lovely to have that calming time. And we'll talk about next, Jada, that again, and that's something that I work with the women in my group, was because that's part of the, like, a wellness plan that they put together, is to start establishing a morning routine. And a lot of them already had something, but they might have changed or added, or for some it was starting from scratch. So it can look different for everybody. You come up with your own recipe, basically, isn't it, for how you want your life to look, what you want to include in there. And of course, the demands that you've got in life at the time is different for everybody who'd be listening. So I'd love to know how long your routine might go for. Like, mine can vary quite a bit, and because I've got the time and space now. And it has evolved and changed over the time. So how long do you usually give for your morning routine?
So my optimal morning routine, and what I aim for each day, is an hour, which sounds really long for a lot of people. And bear in mind, my children are now 6, almost 12 and 15. So I don't have small toddler-sized children or babies. So I wouldn't recommend what I do now for someone who's in that younger child phase. You want to do something different, and you can absolutely start with some small, powerful things. But my optimal routine now is an hour. And that's because I want to have 3 really core pockets within that and cover specific things within that routine. So hence the early rising part, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't get up so early. It's not natural to me. But the power of the combination of that early rising and doing it as the sun rises adds a layer of power. But also, it was just the practicality. I was like, I will have to do it early in the morning or I can't fit it in. So for those women who want to really, get the full power out of that whole time, sometimes we have to make it earlier. But that's my optimal amount of time.
Yep. And so some women might be going, oh my God, like they may be finding it really difficult to get out of bed, depending on, some people fall into 2 groups basically that I've learned. They like to get up early, or they love to get up later. and having I know, having teenage children, how hard it can be, you know, to get them
Yes.
going when they were at that age. So it
Yes.
might mean a few adjustments. What does
Yes.
somebody who really wants to find their whole idea of starting, it's appealing to them to start a morning routine, what do you suggest they do? Just get up 10 minutes earlier, or like what's the starting point? Because they just might, and it's easy to do, put up their hands and go, oh, it's too hard, I can't do that. An hour, unreasonable, maybe I'll do
Absolutely.
10 minutes. So what would you suggest?
Yeah, and look, I remember having that exact thought. I remember listening to a training in a mastermind I was in, many years ago now, and they were teaching like a ritual to do, and I'm there thinking, oh, I don't have time. Like, when on earth am I going to fit that into my day? You actually kidding me? Like, I had a younger children, obviously, so I totally get it. If you're listening here and you're thinking, an hour, like, there's no way. I can't fit an hour routine in. One, if you've got children, maybe they get up at 5 o'clock or 5:30 or 6 or whatever. You know, what do I have to get up at 4 then? Maybe you want to do that. Like, you could. So yes, I mean, there's two areas, I think, and it depends which way you want to go. And we could talk about both, because I think there's the aspect of becoming an early riser, if that's something that you want to do. Because for me, the early rising was kind of, you know, essentially in my lifestyle, I needed to do it that early or I wouldn't do it at all. Then there's the morning routine, which can be really whenever you start it in the morning, which has its own power. They are powerful together, but you don't have to do them coupled together. And so I guess what you're more so asking about is the morning routine itself, like where to start even with a morning routine, or more the side of actually becoming that early riser and getting earlier.
Yeah,
Earlier.
probably. It could be a bit of both. I just know that some people will automatically, their eyes will roll when they hear, you know, get up early. So
Yeah, 5 a.m. in 1 hour. Like, okay, switching off. Don't
yeah,
switch
that's
off,
it.
people.
I'm
Don't
turning
switch
this
off.
podcast off right now. There's
Don't.
no way. Yeah,
No,
it's not at all
no.
attractive.
Okay.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, it
Yeah.
could be for somebody who has got 10 minutes. What could they start with?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're talking about like an optimal morning routine, whatever time that is for you, and starting with something small, what you want to have a think about, from all of my learnings, is how can you support the varying core areas that are going to support the varying core areas of your life. So how can you incorporate something that is good for your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your soul? So that even if you're only doing it for a short amount of time, how can you kind of do something to feed and elevate all of those areas? Because there's a lot of focus on mindset, and mental health. And then there's also a lot of focus on being fit and healthy and physical health. And there's less of a focus on our emotional health, but it's kind of like your soul, what you feel as your own person, and your inner wisdom, is how I look at it. So it's having a think about what are things you could do for your physical health, even if it was just you know, a few push-ups or star jumps or something just to move your body, or a quick walk, or a 5-minute yoga practice, or whatever that might be, because you can do just a little bit. And when you do it consistently, just a little bit, it's so helpful. What's a little thing that you could do for your emotional and spiritual well-being? So that could be something like a short meditation, guided meditation, simply sitting quietly and taking 10 slow breaths is going to help you calm your nervous system, turn inwards, actually be able to listen to your own inner wisdom rather than all of the outside noise. Journaling falls into that category. So a really great practice, and again, you can make it super short, is gratitude. You know, just write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And or you can just do some free writing as well in journaling. And then you want to try to be learning something all the time. Learn something new is a big part also of the routines that I share. So if you don't have much time, what you do is kind of condense that down into small parts. Of course, you can start with just one, where you might want to move your body and listen to a podcast at the same time and kind of combine them, right? Because you're kind of getting both of those things at once. When you combine the exercise, the reflection, which is either meditation, breath, just kind of turning inwards, and journaling, plus the learning, it's really, really powerful, especially when you've got big goals, big life and business goals, and you're wanting to do a lot in life and show up in a big way for your family, for yourself, in your business or your career. When you combine all of those things, even in a small way, even if it's 2 minutes each, then that will be really powerful and a great place to start.
That's right. Starting small, getting those quick wins makes a big difference. And if you've got some accountability as well, which kind of is going to lead me into the next question I want to ask you about, is that, you talked about different life circumstances. If you were younger, with a young child, your eyes were rolling in the back of your head when you thought about that, what that person's saying in the masterclass, whereas now you've got a bit more time and space. When you've got teenagers, it's different again. You're probably giving them a little bit longer in bed, so that gives you that space to be able to spend for yourself. Some women might have an empty nest, some might live alone. So there's all sorts of different things and different ways of life for the women who are listening. You've got to help people work out what's right for them. You do have a 5-day early rising and morning mastery experiment that's coming up in June that you've run before to help women find out what's going to be working well for them. So if you can just give a little bit of information with regards to that, would be great.
Yeah. So I guess before diving specifically into that, experiment week, and leading on from what I was sharing about the inclusions for the morning routine, is where then you want to have a look at, well, what are your goals? What's your current season of life? And so from within those areas, well, what kind of exercise is going to suit you within your morning routine? Which of the variety of reflection style things that I teach about that fall into those kinds of categories are going to work best for you? Is it visualization? Is it meditation? Is it breath work? Which parts of the journaling are you going to include? Is it going to be, when you're learning, does it have to be a podcast so you can kind of be doing something else at the same time, or feeding, whatever you're doing? Or are you able to read a book, or are you going to be studying a business course, or where are you at? So that from those, core sections of the morning routine, you're then optimizing it to match your stage of life and your goals specifically, so that they're helping you move towards them. So in the 5-day live, it's a live and kind of immersive experiment week.
Okay, so people join you. Is that okay? So we'll explain that to people. They might think, it's something that I can just pick up and watch whenever, but to get the bang for buck, you do need to join in.
Well, this particular one, I've run a few different versions of it, but this particular one is immersive. So the idea is, if you've struggled to, form that habit of early rising, and it's something you really want to do or experiment with, then you have the opportunity of that accountability, the guidance, the support to actually show up with other women, with me guiding you. And I guide you through a live optimized morning routine where we go through those different phases of exercise, reflection, and learning. And in the learning period, I teach around some really powerful strategies and actions that will help you, when you put them in place. They're the ones that I found the most helpful, layered together, I will add, to support you making that shift into being an early riser. And just different actions and strategies to kind of put together.
So kind of like your a Subway menu. I'll take that and I'll add this. Your own recipe.
Exactly. So that you're still in. Yes, exactly. So you're still including those different facets, but in a way that kind of suits you, I guess. And so yes, this one in particular is an immersive one where you actually come along and you trial an experiment with early rising in a guided way, and with that accountability, which can make the difference between hitting snooze and turning over, or actually getting up and thinking, Jada's waiting for me, all those ladies are going to be there. I said I was going to go. I better go along to that. So but I do also share you know, at varying times, I've got a couple of different workshops and masterclasses coming up around where it's just teaching. It's not at 5:30 in the morning. So evenings or daytime and things like that, which is more around the teaching the information as opposed to giving it a go. So there are other options and ways to get started and connect. Excellent. That don't require necessarily getting up at 5:30 in the morning if that's not where you want to start.
That experiment's the 21st of June. And then for people, if they are keen, will they follow you on Instagram to get more details, or are you able to give us that link at some point as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share with you so you can put them, I guess, with the show notes and things like that. Instagram is where I'm most active on socials. I do have Facebook, but I'm much more active on Instagram. Yes. And I have a variety of resources as well, and you'll be able to see then the upcoming workshops or experiment weeks and things like that. You can give it a go, and I'm usually sharing, different tips and information and all that kind of thing. And if people listen
after that date, then Instagram's a great place to connect with you on that. So, Jada, being a female entrepreneur has been a big part of your life for many years now. Does this new business that you've created feel different for you?
Yes, it does. It does, because it's my thing, which has been a huge shift. So I started this business in 2020, but was so burnt out that I actually stopped at the beginning of 2021 and just needed to focus on other areas of life. And in fact, that whole separating out of the business with my husband and different things. So I ended up just taking another job. And it wasn't until the end of last year that I just was feeling more and more unsettled in myself. And I thought, you know what, it's just not me. I just don't feel right. I need to restart my own thing. And again, what's it going to be? Will it be the Rise and Shine Collective? Is that my thing? Yeah. But I had loved it so much, and sharing that information and experience with the women who had joined me when I did that at the end of 2020. So I obviously have come back to doing this and do love it so much. So yes, it feels very different. So the first scheduled day that I had to work on this business this year, I actually just had to sit in the feeling of, oh my gosh, like this actual time. It's not taking from family. It's not time I'm supposed to be working on the other business, but I'm just working on this one. It was the first time that I had allocated time to work on this business, and it was actually a hugely different sensation and feeling. And although I have a lot of experience running a business, yes, it's very different starting it from scratch, and also it being my very own baby, I guess, and my own direction, which can be daunting as well as exciting, really exciting. Yeah,
it is, because you don't have a roadmap in front of you. But this is going to lead me on to my next question.
Yes.
I'd love for women to dream bigger and to think about what they want to include in their lives in the future.
Yes.
So what are your dreams that you've got for this business then? Have you had time, because you start early startup stages, have you had time to think where you might like it to go?
Yeah, so good question, Jo. So I'll be completely open and honest here. This is what I feel like. I feel like that the early rising is a stepping stone, because so I'm not sure if this directly answers your question. I feel like it's going in a direction that is, and I'm not sure like the mode or modality or, what the program will be exactly or whatever. But I feel like it's going in the direction of, in some way, working with women around self-love and yeah, I mean, exactly this question is living in alignment with who they truly are and what they really want to bring into the world, to dream big and to go after those things and to identify it as well. Because like one of the exercises I take ladies through in my programs is even just reconnecting with what brings you joy. And I think as mums, we can lose ourselves. Like I remember my friend asking me, when I was lamenting, I don't know what will I do? I want to start a business, but what will I do? She said, but what do you enjoy doing? And I couldn't answer the question. I mean, on the surface, a few things, but I couldn't really articulate and answer the question. And that's led me to doing a lot of exercises around that. And it's why I also include it in my programs, because we forget, we don't even really know what we love to do anymore as a person oftentimes. And I think that's why I love early rising in the morning routines as a vehicle for so many other areas, self-love, rediscovering ourselves, moving back in alignment with ourselves, turning to our inner wisdom. So whether or not the early rising will always be the vehicle in the business, I'm not sure. I feel like it's leading somewhere. I'm not sure where yet, but I definitely see it as working with women around those types of areas, hopefully around the world. I would love that. A global community of women, up to big things, or on their way to being up to big things.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So what's something that's business side that you're envisioning could happen? What's something else that you would like in the future for you that's not related to business? So in the next 10 years, what's a dream that you might have?
Oh, yes. Well, I would absolutely love to have a home by the beach. It's one of my, I love the beach. It's my favorite place. And I would love to have a home, whether it's a holiday home or where I live. I personally would probably prefer to live there, but I've got a few other people in my life to consider. Yes, a home by the beach is what I would really love. That's definitely one of my big goals. Yes, so more time by the ocean.
Lovely.
I would say yes, is one of my goals.
What's the biggest positive that you've noticed since you've become older? Like as your children are aging as well, you start to see life a little bit differently and things open up. So what have you been enjoying the most?
Yes. Well, it's been interesting. When I turned 30, I finally felt comfortable in the age, I'd been meant to be that age for 10 years. I was like, this is so much better.
I'm so mature at 30.
But it was weird because I just felt like that was, no, just to let you know, I'll be 40 next year. And so it was only last year or something as I turned 39, that I went, so it's closer to 40 now than 30. How do I feel? Because 30 felt yes, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so 40s, I haven't contemplated it too much, but it's not so far off for me now. But what am I loving? I guess the growing sense of comfort in myself, maybe that less, of course there's still self-doubt and different things that come in, but as a fundamental baseline, I guess you'd and okayness, which is not really a word, belief in also discovering more of that, actually having a focus on discovering more of who I am and bringing more of that to the world, and that being okay. So I guess just that growing comfort in self as I work to develop more into who I'd like to be. Obviously as the kids have also are growing, so I can start to feel that next stage of space to start to focus again on a little bit more on the different interests or business and things like that for myself, or my own kind of future desires and things like that. I definitely felt that shift in the last kind of year and a half as my youngest has gone to school. And I remember he was a little bit of a surprise, although I'd always wanted 3. But literally we found out we were pregnant with our youngest in the kind of second half of the year in the lead up to our now middle son going to prep. And so I was there thinking, next year I'll do this, and next year I'll do that, and we're about to head into this new phase. And then I found out I was pregnant, which has been the hugest blessing. I feel like our family is fully complete, and he's so gorgeous. But at that time, it was almost now, this point I'm at now, it's I I was seeing that coming at that point, and then obviously
You're almost when things grasp.
Exactly. So that required a little bit of you know, mental change and things like that. But it also meant that I was so mindful about like taking a year off, which I hadn't done with the other kids. And so I think, you know, as you become older and have more life experience as well, you can really start to go, well, this is how it's going to best serve me and my loved ones because of that life experience. And I started also to take that time to do more personal development and different things.
Yeah, women like to do a lot of the things themselves, and where it is Giovanna, where, you know, sometimes you do have to ask for help.
Yeah.
I just say, Jada, you've got a lot to look forward to as you enter into your 40s and your 50s, because it does get a bad rap getting older, but truly, you know, you become more and more comfortable with who you are. And I know it's not always the case for every single woman, but the ups and downs that happen, there's always, whenever there's a down, you know, there's going to be an upside. You know, it's a really lovely time of life. So I look forward to seeing what you're going to be doing when you're in this time in 10 years, you know, 10 years.
Yes, maybe we'll have another conversation in 10 years.
Yeah,
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think that was a pivoting thing as well, is because I was like, I don't want to still be work. Like my job is fantastic. I love the people I work for. It's not that at all. But I was getting unhappy in myself. And I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm not going to feel satisfied and happy with myself if I turn 40. It's just an imaginary line, I'm sure, having not taken steps to at least start and experimenting and finding out and you know, trying to discover what it is I'm on this planet to, you know, my big purpose is. Like, I needed to start to move into that. And I think that's been a shift as well.
Because you've got to ask yourself, you know, if not now, when? And for you found that, you know, in your late 30s, which is fabulous. Some people don't take the brave step to, you know, to go into the unknown, because it's scary. So it's something, you know, you should be very proud of, and it's lovely that you're being able to offer this now and share with what you've learned. So Jada, just before we wrap up, I've got a question I always ask the guests. If you could look into the future, what do you hope 80-year-old Jada will say about current day Jada?
Oh, 80-year-old Jada.
So we've really hit the fast forward button.
Yeah, I reckon that's another whole lifetime. I reckon she'd probably say, take a chill pill, Jada. You've got all the time in the world. That's what I reckon she'd say. Stop rushing. Stop rushing. Everything will work out just perfectly fine. You'll get there. You'll find your way.
Well, Jada, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat together. And yeah, you've given us lots to work on. And if people want to explore that further, then we've got ways to be able to connect with you. And again, look in the show notes. Instagram handle, just in case people don't have access to that.
Yeah, at the Rise and Shine Collective.
Lovely. Okay, thanks so much, Jada.
Thanks, Jo. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening and sharing your time with me today. I'd love you to hit subscribe on Apple Podcast or your favourite podcast app to keep spreading these empowering messages. Please share this podcast with other incredible midlife women in your world. Join me again next week for another redefining midlife conversation. Thanks again for tuning in.